Hello everyone, welcome to the Java course. In addition to the exceptions that are provided by the Java runtime environment, we can also create our own exceptions that are derived from the exception classes provided by the Java runtime environment. I would like to explain this concept by means of an example. Suppose you want to calculate the hourly wage for a certain person. Then you have to input the daily range first, and then you have to input the number of hours from the user input. So if the daily wage is already smaller than the minimum wage allowed in a certain country, we can already throw a range exception object that is created by me later. And this range exception is an example of a custom exception. Also for the number of hours issue, if the number of hours being obtained from the user input is equal to 0, we cannot do the division of the amount to the number of hours in order to get the hourly wage. In this case, I can simply throw another custom exception called MinHoursException, which is going to be defined by me later. Okay, so in this situation, we can start with the range exception. Okay, if I want to create my own custom exception, I have to create it from the generic exception class or the runtime exception class that I will show later. So for now, my idea is to check the minimum daily wage, so I can do something like this. Now I would like to create a subclass from the exception superclass. And let me say it again. This is a custom exception. The reason we call it a custom exception is that when this exception class extends the exception class, this exception class, which is the range exception, will be checked by the compiler. So this custom exception is a checked one, okay? Now I can create a constructor of my range exception object. Since my range exception object constructor has a formal parameter called message, when I want to create the range exception object from the constructor, I can simply use the superclass constructor, which is the exception class constructor. So I can simply pass the message obtained from the formal parameter of the range exception class to produce my message for the range exception class. Okay. When I print the range exception object, I can simply return something in the form of a string. For the range exception object, I can say that the wage is at least $200 per day. So this amount is the minimum daily amount for a certain worker in a certain country. Okay. So let me save it. Okay, I got an error here because I missed the letter C. So now I can save it. Okay, we have a warning here, which tells me to take note of this as serialization issue of the custom exception. This is a property of Eclipse. If you don't need to do the serialization, you can simply ignore this warning. But if you want to ignore this warning, I can give you an idea. Okay, I can add one more line here to tell the serial version UID to be a long number, which is having a value of 1. So remember, this line is optional. You can simply ignore the warning for my illustration purpose. Okay, so let me save it. Okay, this one is complete. I can go to the other custom exception, which is the MinHoursException. This is the exception when I want to find out the hourly wage that it's possible to have the number of hours to be 0. So if the number of hours is 0, I would get the arithmetic exception, which is a kind of a runtime error. In this situation, I can produce my custom exception by deriving it from RuntimeException class. Okay, this MinHoursException is derived from the RuntimeException class. Okay. This kind of exception derived from the RuntimeException is an unchecked one. That means the compiler doesn't need us to really handle this MinHoursException. The program is still able to be executed. We will see the effects of this unchecked exception later. But now I'm a perfectionist, so I need to handle every single possible exception. So let me continue. The thing is quite similar to my previous custom exception, so I can copy and paste a lot of content. Okay, I can still provide the serial version UID to avoid the error coming from, to avoid the warning coming from the Eclipse environment. For this MinHoursException, I would like to use the default constructor as a demonstration, so I don't need the constructor in this way. I can ignore it. So the default constructor will be operated, and the toString method would simply return another statement, which is this one. If the number of hours is given as 0, I would simply say that the number of hours cannot be 0. So this is my MinHoursException, which is a custom unchecked exception. So let me save it. Okay, so let me go back to the driver class that operates on the 2 exceptions. Here, I know that it is possible for this method to return the RangeException, so I have to try it. Okay, and then if this function or method has got a problem, I need to tackle it. Okay, the RangeException object will be thrown by the check daily wage method if the minimum wage cannot be satisfied. So when I catch the RangeException object by the calling method of the check daily wage method, which is simply the main method, the main method needs to handle the exception called. Okay, in this case, I would print a statement to tell the user that the daily wage is too low. I can also tell the exception object to print the stack trace. I can also get the message coming from the exception object, which is the message obtained by the constructor of the RangeException class, okay. Of course, I can have a finally part. Whether or not the check daily wage method throws an exception, I need to do that finally part here. Here I close the scan object, which is used to obtain the values for the minimum, for the wage and the number of hours. Here, and I would say goodbye to the user. So this handles the range exception that is possible to be thrown by the check daily wage method. So what is really the check daily wage method doing? I can show the idea here. I would say the static method is like this. It will throw an exception object whose data type is RangeException, to be more precise. If the daily wage is too low, the method will simply throw the RangeException object here. This one, okay. The message being put to the constructor of the RangeException is simply this one. This is a checked exception. And when I call the RangeException constructor, I would call the superclass of the RangeException class to help me put the message into the object of the RangeException class, okay. Of course, if the amount is large enough, I would say that the daily wage is acceptable. So this is a pretty clear idea of the check daily wage method. Okay, we can go back to the try block here. After getting the amount of the daily wage, we need to check whether the number of hours accepted is a valid number. So we can continue the try block as follows. We are going to have a nested try catch finally block here. So if the check daily wage method is okay, we can go to the next part that accepts the number of hours from the user. So these lines are put inside the inner try block, okay. Okay, and then we can go to the catch block of the inner try catch finally block to handle the MinHoursException. The approach to handling this exception is quite similar to the exception mechanism for my RangeException object. So I can copy many code from the previous part. If the MinHoursException object is thrown to the calling method, which is simply the main method, the main method has to handle it by printing out the statement like this, and then I can print out the stack trace of the exception object together with the message coming from the exception object. But we have to notice something here. Because our MinHoursException class does not provide any default constructor, the getMessage method would simply return nothing, which is a null string to the main method. Okay, we will see the output on the console later. Okay, the finally part of the inner try catch finally block is like this. I would say that the number of hours has already been processed when the check daily wage method has been done. Okay, so let me repeat the main point again. This MinHoursException is an unchecked exception because it has derived from the RuntimeException here. The catch block can be commented. That means we don't need the MinHoursException to execute if we just really want the program to run. Okay, the final part is to finish my check hourly wage method. So the content is a bit similar. I can copy and paste a lot of things from my previous method. Okay, the method is like this. Check hourly wage method signature. We have to input two integers, and then it is possible for this method to throw the MinHoursException, which is the one shown here. Okay. If the number of hours obtained from the user is equal to 0, I will simply throw an MinHoursException object. Okay. And when we go back to the class declaration of the MinHoursException, we can see that we don't put any message to the constructor because I simply use the default constructor derived from the RuntimeException class. Okay. Okay, I create a local variable for my check hourly wage method. And then I can simply print out the hourly wage obtained from the method. Okay, so it is possible that the number of hours obtained is 0. If it is 0, we can never go to this line. So in this case, the arithmetic exception can be avoided. So let us check the entire program now. Save it and run it. Now I am able to handle the MinHoursException because I haven't commented this catch block yet. So let me see the result. We know that the daily wage has to be at least $200, so I input a value larger than that, say $300. And then I can see that my daily wage is acceptable. The reason is that I run this else part from the check daily wage method. So the RangeException object is not thrown. And of course, this catch part is not executed. And then I can input the hourly wage, which is simply equal to 3 in my example now. The hourly wage is $100. Why? Because it is obtained from this division. That means the MinHoursException object is not thrown from the check hourly wage method to the calling method of it, which is the main method here. Okay, and I'm able to print out the finally part of the inner try-catch finally block together with the finally part statement from the outer try-catch finally block. So I'm able to print out both hours processed and by here. Let us see another situation by running it again. If I input $100 only for my daily wage, okay, I will get this result. When the daily wage is only $100, I cannot go further. I will be stuck at the RangeException here. That means the try block here, which is talking about the check daily wage method, is already throwing an exception object whose data type is RangeException. Okay, so in this situation, I will get this message out, shown here. I'm also able to print out the stack trace in red, and I can also get the message coming from the constructor of the RangeException object, which is this one. This is a checked exception. Okay, so I will get all these values, and since I have run through the catch part, which is the outer one, I'm also able to do the finally part. That means I can print out the by statement here together with the closure of the scan object, which accepts the user input. Okay, so let us see another situation. Suppose the amount of daily wage is $500. If I input 0 for my number of hours, okay, we will have this situation. The problem is like this. We are not able to do the division, so we will throw the MinHoursException object shown here. So I will print out the statement in the catch block of the MinHoursException object, which is this one. I'm also able to print out the stack trace in red. I'm also able to print out the message obtained from the MinHoursException object. Here we see that the message is simply null, because I simply use the default constructor of the RuntimeException class. which has nothing as the message to be put into the constructor that I use now. So we will have null as the message coming from the MinHoursException object. The finally part can be executed. That means I'm able to print out the hours processed together with the by statement here. So that the hours processed statement comes from the inner try catch finally block, and the by statement comes from the outer try catch finally block. Okay. So let me show you another situation of neglecting the unchecked exception in the catch block, which is the one shown here. Because the MinHoursException is an unchecked exception, I don't even want to compile this part before I can run the whole driver program. So let us see the situation. That means we don't need to handle the exception, but we can still remain the try and finally block for the inner part. Okay, so let me try to run it. The daily wage is about $300. If I input 0 as the number of hours for that worker, I will have the hours processed statement coming from the finally part of the inner try finally block. And I'm also able to print out the by statement coming from the outer try catch finally part. I'm also able to print out the stack trace from the Java runtime system. So the thing in red is not provided by me. Actually, it is provided by the Java runtime environment that handles the MinHoursException, which is a type of runtime exception. We can also see that the MinHoursException is as follows. When we print out the stack trace, I'm able to print out the object received by the Java runtime environment. So when the Java runtime environment has received the MinHoursException object, when I run the stack trace, I'm able to print out the string obtained by the toString method. So this line can be obtained from my toString method pertaining to the MinHoursException class. Okay, and other things are produced by the runtime system of Java. So in this situation, we can still compile the program, but we have to let the Java virtual machine handle the unchecked exception, which usually will make the program stop. So in this situation, the program might not be stopped gracefully. So this is the idea of the custom exceptions. We have the RangeException, which is an example of the custom exception. We also have the MinHoursException, which is an example of the unchecked exception. So we have to remember that runtime exceptions don't need to be really caught, but for the checked exception, we have to really handle them. So this catch block, a block in the outside try catch finally block cannot be commented. If I do so, I can see the effect like this. So let me run again. Save it first. You can see that I cannot save it. I have a little cross here. Why? The reason is that the check daily wage method, which is here, has a possibility to throw a RangeException object, which is a checked one. in this situation, we have to really handle the object coming from the check exception. Okay, so this tells me the importance of handling these kinds of exception objects. So that's why we have to retain the catch part in the outer try catch finally block. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, feel free to leave your comments on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.